Okay, pet peeve alert. If someone's falling, and you catch them just seconds before they hit the ground, they hit you just as hard as they'd hit the ground. You saved no one.
Welcome to the heart of the stories we tell. My name is Rob, and tonight I will be reviewing
Episode 3 of Supergirl, Man of Steel. And alright, so, we have a lot going on in tonight's episode. And for a second, it really, really felt good. In fact, it deals with one of the things I've dealt with before in my channel. Specifically, in my Comics vs. Realism, aka When Did Superman Join the X-Men? And in that, I talked about the fact that in a realistic world, you'd fear superheroes. But we also have a few other things, like a great throwback to Nth Metal, which is actually a pretty important metal in the DC universe, and one that creates several of the MacGuffins we're used to seeing. I've been told including Dr. Fate's helmet, although I'm not 100% on board with that. And I guess Agent Liberty in this. But okay, before we go too far, for those of you that don't know what I do here, I review stories like this. I spend a lot of time working on superhero type things, but books, movies, TV shows, and then I come back with how and why we tell stories. If that sounds interesting, click subscribe. The Mercy story started off as a strong look at a set of characters that we don't normally get a good look at. But this week it took a big turn. When we irradiated the entire atmosphere all at once, boom! Oh yeah, and we have Nth Metal on Earth now. Earth 2? Is this Earth 3? Earth 9? I don't remember. Alright, let's throw up the spoilers and get started.
So once again, it's stop. Spoiler time. Ba-da-na-na.
Okay, and this is a hard episode to talk about, because I don't like doing politics. And to say that this was a heavy-handed, extremely in-your-face look at politics of today is an understatement. I'm going to give them that it was well written, though. They tried to make both sides have their points. And there are even moments where our budding Agent Liberty has some points, even if he is too aggressive and obviously going down a pretty dark path. And, that's before he irradiated the entire friggin' atmosphere with radioactive elements. And again, it's easy enough to cast anyone in a bad light in this day and age. All you have to do is take what they say and put it in the worst spin possible. But of course, that's exactly what they're doing because they wanted to create villains. And in order to create these villains, they had to go back in time. They went back all the way to the Season 1 finale, and then the Season 2, Season 3, all of it, and inserted this character. And it was a pretty interesting way of doing it, a great way of showing continuity, and I'm going to give them that. I'm even going to say that slipping the Make America Great line in, whether you personally thought it was good or not, was at least somewhat trying to be subtle for Supergirl. Trying. Of course, all that subtlety goes right out the window when you realize that they had a highly intellectual person who was preaching nonviolence, realized there was a problem with the disparity between two groups of people, and instantly, because he wanted to point it out, became violent and an arsonist. And yes, I agree, Lena Luthor is not the best person in the world. And on top of that, Lena Luthor is not in any way, shape, or form the person that you want to hold up as a hero. But you know who is? There's another character who really kind of is. Her and her cousin kind of risk their lives all the time. Then again, don't all the superheroes solve problems by beating the problems up with their fists? So if you're beating the problem with a stick, that's bad. But if you're beating it with a superpowered fist, that's good. Yeah, that's one of those things where the whole concept of superheroes, again, like I said way back when, falls apart when you try putting it in a real world. Because in the real world, you don't have absolute good and absolute evil. And that's what they're trying to showcase here. The problem is that we do have an absolute good. Supergirl is absolutely good. We have a third eye view of the character. We can see her in all of her roles, all of her indecision. We can trust her because she's very much the good guy. You can't do that with a real person. But to cast the argument in such a way as to give him even the smidgen of hope, we need Agent Liberty to be a real person looking at a comic book and saying, hey, look, these people with powers can't be trusted. And by the time they got to most recently and they got the whole, we're going to expose the president, I'm like, yes, yes, exposing the president to be a liar, an alien, that's a good thing. Beating up aliens that are refugees, bad thing. What? Why do we have to conflate the two? Okay, so I'm going to try to then take a step back from politics and look at the actual arc of the story. The arc of the story was pretty good. We started with Alex pretending to be FBI. We started with Supergirl taking it easy on a bunch of normal people who she could basically incinerate or flash freeze or anything else. And then we move on to the fact that in a world full of superheroes fighting, that's really not a good world to live in. It's pretty easy to see why, too, because you don't want to be in the middle of a superhero fight, and you don't want your house to be the staging ground for it. The funny part is what they showed here for Supergirl throughout the seasons is basically that we don't see all of the crummy things that happen in Supergirl's world, and we only see them because we're now using them as an origin for a new villain. And that the Man of Steel movie that everyone hated and thought that Supergirl was actually better than isn't that far off. Because at the end of the day, that's what you come across. Collateral damage. Good, bad, or ugly. And that's what created Agent Liberty. Which, again, in the comic books, is a superhero who, yes, wields a gun, but also has a force field, and was replacing Booster Gold in the Justice League for a while after the death of Superman. And yeah, okay. So I'm not sure how long I'm going to keep going with this storyline. I liked the idea of Mercy being used as a villain. Otis was I'm growing on the idea of Brainiac being in it. What about you guys? What do you think about tonight's episode and the episodes in general? Do you think that this show has become too heavy-handed? And most importantly, are you enjoying it, and can you give me a good reason to enjoy it myself? And of course, it's time for me to ask you to do all the things YouTubers ask you to do, so if you could like, share, and subscribe. And of course, I'm going to give a big shout-out thank you to my Patreons. But mostly, I'm just asking you to talk, because talking about things like this may make it important. And having it be a conversation might make it feel a little less preachy. I hope you have a good night, and thank you for walking with me through the heart of the stories we tell.